Greetings everyone. So as some of you may have heard, particularly any viewers I have in England, the Church of England is going through a bit of turmoil right now. The Archbishop of Canterbury, or the former Archbishop of Canterbury now, Justin Welby, resigned. He at first said that he would not be resigning in an interview with Channel 4, and then he resigned. He must have been pressured to do so, and it's all because of his failure to act on the knowledge that there was a person named John Smyth who had been doing horrific things to young boys, physically and sexually abusing them. John Smyth basically has been considered the most serious sexual abuser connected with the Church of England. He was able to carry out his abuse for more than 40 years, according to the Makin report. There was an independent investigation done into this, and there is a video clip of Cathy Newman from Channel 4 confronting him back in 2017. That was about a year before he died, because he died in 2018, so he's never been brought to justice over this. But Channel 4 did do a documentary in 2017, I believe, on this, and Cathy Newman actually confronted him. This was the last time he was confronted. Maybe it was the first and last time he was confronted by a journalist. Here is that clip of her confronting him and him basically just saying he's not going to talk to her.
Mr. Smyth, Cathy Newman from Channel 4 News. We're told that you beat young men until they bled. Why did you do that?
I'm not talking about that.
Well, did you do it?
I'm not talking about that at all.
Well, one victim told us that you drove him to attempt suicide. Do you have any regrets for that?
I'm not talking about this. I'm sorry,
Don't the victims deserve to hear why you did it?
I'm not talking about what we did at all.
It's interesting that he's saying he's not going to talk about that. He's not going to talk about what we did at all. So he hasn't denied it. I mean, it could be taken as kind of a no comment from him, but he's not denying it, saying, what on earth are you talking about? He's saying he's not going to talk about that.
Please leave us alone.
Well, we've spoken to these victims who say that you beat them so hard that they bled. What about Mark Stibbe? What about Richard Gittings? All these people, they've spoken to us. They respected you. They looked up to you. Do you think what you did was Christian?
I'm not answering any questions.
Now, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, has gone. I do wonder who they're going to bring in now. It would be hilarious to me if they brought in some very liberal, purple-haired woman to be the Archbishop of Canterbury. I'm sure they have a few of those to choose from in the Church of England clergy. It probably won't be. I want to show you two clips. The first one is from 2017, when the Archbishop of Canterbury at the time, Justin Welby, was confronted by journalists, and Cathy Newman from Channel 4 was also there. By the way, I'm not particularly a big fan of Cathy Newman, but in this case, you know, she was covering a major story, and it was absolutely imperative for the public to know about it. So she's there, and she is questioning Justin Welby, and here's what he says about how the Church of England has been dealing with this whole issue of John Smyth.
You knew of the allegations in 2013. Do you believe you did enough to ensure that the alleged victims received justice?
Yes, we have a very, very strict system now, which has been introduced over the last 5 years, and was there before, but it's been toughened up a lot. So that the moment we're told of anything, the police are told. The lead safeguarding bishop takes responsibility, so nobody has any chance of covering up. All that is in place now, and that is absolutely essential because we want to put survivors first.
So there you go. He was asked if he did enough, and he said that they had a very strict system in place. Keep in mind, this is an interview from 2017. He said they had a very strict system in place, and that system has been in place for the last 4 or 5 years. And, you know, they have a lead safeguarding bishop who deals with it, etc. So he essentially said the system that they had was sufficient to deal with this, and they had been dealing with it. Now, last week, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, said something that looked rather different.
I was told there was an accusation of abuse, and this is where I went wrong. Safeguarding at that point, had one person for the national part of the Church of England half-time. We're now around 40. And those are reforms I brought in myself. I didn't have a system. There wasn't a process. There weren't people in place. I should have recognized that weakness, that lack of capacity to deal with it, and have done something.
So there you see it. Justin Welby, still the Archbishop of Canterbury at that time of the interview, is basically saying that there wasn't a system good enough in place to deal with this, and that's his fault. So in 2017, he said everything was in place, it was a strict system, and then here he's saying actually they didn't have a proper system in place, they didn't have enough people. So somewhere he's not quite telling the truth. The Makin report, this is an independent review done by a man named Keith Makin, did say the abuse at the hands of John Smyth was prolific and abhorrent. Words cannot adequately describe the horror of what transpired. Later on it says, despite the efforts of some individuals to bring the abuse to the attention of authorities, the responses by the Church of England and others were wholly ineffective and amounted to a cover-up. We are appalled that any clergy could believe that covering up abuse was justified in the name of the gospel, which is about proclaiming good news to the poor and healing the brokenhearted. It was wrong for a seemingly privileged group from an elite background to decide that the needs of victims should be set aside and that Smyth's abuse should not therefore be brought to light. Now look, I'm a Catholic. We know that the Catholic Church has had its own issues with sexual abuse and cover-up of that abuse, or at least dealing with it very badly. So this isn't a case of me trying to point the finger here and saying, oh, look at what's going on in the Church of England, because I know the Catholic Church has these issues, and I know many Christian denomination churches have these issues, as do many other areas of life, such as the education system, etc. Sadly, there are certain people who do these things, and they sneak into various organizations, including the church. And while I'm not going to blame any church for the fact that some of their individuals have turned out to do evil things, you can certainly blame any church, including the Catholic Church, for not dealing with it properly. As soon as the now former Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, had any inclination that something like this could be going on, or that there were suspicions that John Smyth could be doing some dodgy things with young boys, he should have at the very least made sure he cannot do that anymore while this gets investigated. Because I think that is generally how it works, isn't it? If there's any suspicion that someone is doing something dodgy like this, you move them away from the alleged victims and then you look into what's going on. But you, at the very least, know that while you're investigating it, it isn't carrying on. And then if it turns out that nothing was going on, great. But you've got to take that precaution, and this precaution wasn't taken here. This is the most horrific case in the Church of England just because of the sheer scale of young boys who were abused. It's thought to be around 130, I believe. And I thought I'd cover it because, you know, I'm in England, and the Church of England is the main national church here. So this is what's happening. And the Archbishop of Canterbury is essentially like the highest ranked cleric in the Church of England. I mean, if you take away the monarch, but the monarch, you don't really count the monarch because the monarch is sort of there just aesthetically. The monarch doesn't really do anything in the church. So in terms of an actual active member of the clergy who is the highest ranked in the church, I would say that's the Archbishop of Canterbury. So while it might not quite be the equivalent of the Pope resigning, because it's just a different system in the Church of England than it is to the Catholic Church, it's the highest ranked member, the clergy member who kind of overlooks everything and is essentially in charge in some way, resigning. I do wonder who the next one will be. I kind of doubt it's going to be anyone better, to be honest, and there may be more members of clergy who resign from the Church of England after this. I think Justin Welby was obviously too woke for the Anglo-Catholic members of the Church of England and not woke enough for the super woke liberal members of the Church of England. So he wasn't really liked by anyone, and maybe that also contributed to him having to resign, because I really do suspect that far more people are involved in this and far more people have covered this up, and some of them may well not have to resign because of their ideological views, but the ones who are disliked will have to resign, starting with Justin Welby. Let me know your thoughts on this, folks. Thank you very much for watching the video. Have a blessed day.